And we've got from Vryn Thorne, who said, Matt was correct. Storytelling is sacred. It's how we pass our culture to new generations. I mean, man, that's big. Yep. Team 2 are mutilating archetypes that have been respected for 2,000 plus years. Gaelic culture deserved better.
Yeah, it's weird. There's an importance that I find in storytelling overall, and especially in games, because the storytelling is so much more potent. It's harder to carry out to other people, but it's so potent experientially that I feel like there's a solemn duty to people who create media to do it with those purposes in mind. Not necessarily like, up themselves. I'm going to have to make this so perfect so all of those in the future can experience my greatness. I kind of just mean it's a snapshot of what people are like today, or what story you want to tell. Where I think that's the important stuff. Where it's people who are corporate executives are going, so can we sell this in a box? Can we sell this in the box to people and they'll buy it for profit? They're like, yes. Make more of them, please. Which I think ends up being the problem, instead of it being respected as the source of entertainment and ultimately the source of art it is. But then I don't want to get into the discussion over a video game's art, because that's a long one, even though it's really simple. But.
There's an interesting one here, actually. It's funny for storytelling. Yeah, it's just don't go too fast. That's my core point, actually. It's just don't go too fast. And I think that's the issue they've had. They've been overly speedy with their story, and that's just led to too much, too quick, loads and loads and loads of new ideas, but not enough fleshing out of characters. And that's just meant that people bounce off it, right? It doesn't matter how many of us sort of do lore things in YouTube. It's just people are bouncing off the lore they actually play in the game, and that just can't go on for too much longer. We do have a super from Feely the Goblin, who said, do you think Elune might have broken the Arbiter by bypassing her? To which I would say no, because trying to double check my timelines, but I'm fairly sure, the Arbiter was broken during Legion.
That's the currently accepted theory, I believe. I can't remember why that's the theory, but I know it is.
By that time, the Arbiter was already broken. Yeah. I think that's just the bit that I get hung up on. Because the way that it's looked like in Shadowlands is that all the souls enter the Shadowlands, go through the big funnel of Orbos, and the Arbiter's supposed to sort them out.
Yeah, but they go straight
because
to the
she's down, they all just fall into the maw.
Yeah. Why is the maw the fallback? What a great system.
So, it does kind of confuse me how this whole, saving of the souls goes. And just, some of the specific mechanics. I'd like some... If we're going to do this very mechanical story, I would like to understand the mechanics a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that the core takeaway is that the simplest one is obviously that Elune could have saved them but didn't. Because she thought, well, this is going to be a tragedy, but it's a tragedy that will have an effect for my sister, and she needs it.
So when you say
suffering begets suffering here, saves other suffering here. That's what I think anyway.
Yeah. When you say that, do you mean how would Elune stop Sylvanas? Or would it be, summon forth the wisps and destroy the horde from the forest or something?
It would be basically anything that's within Elune's power. It's the one example I always come back to is what she did for Tyrande in the War of the Ancients. She clearly has the potential for divine intervention. I feel like it would have been very easy for her to simply go, no, there's a barrier. None of that fire's getting to Teldrassil. Even if it's to summon some, I don't know if this is a real thing, some lunar wind to blow away the things. Or just, if you wanted to save on spell effect budget, moonfire stuff out of the sky. Or, she can communicate with Tyrande. Where was Tyrande when that was happening? Could she not have went, Tyrande, here's a massive, here's all the power I can give you right now. Blast over there, stop the tree from burning.
But Tyrande hadn't done the ritual.
She can still, she can still bestow stuff upon her. She can still help her out. It's the kind of thing where she's the goddess of these people. She clearly has the power to intervene. She's intervened on things like that before. So I think that's what they're going for. Because some of it's me trying to get self-doubts out of the way, not self-doubts, doubts out of the way. Because I cannot think that they would think that Elune talking about which direction she sent souls is compelling. Because if they say, oh, no, sorry, actually, what Elune actually meant was that she could have put the souls in her pocket dimension, but she sent them to the Arbiter instead. And if they say that and they think any player currently playing thinks that's interesting, then they really need to be taken out of, like, they need the copium tanks removed out of the fucking AC in the building. Because that's me coming at it from the perspective of what I think they're saying, what I think they're doing. And it has to be that Elune didn't intervene because they wanted Elune to intervene, but she abandoned us. The Elune abandoned us story is Elune not acting where she could have.
I guess that's the bit that like gets me, because I look at the cinematic and there's, you know, everyone's being like, oh, well, that was our initial reaction. Loads of us had that initial reaction of Elune could have stopped it but didn't and knew the souls would go there. Then I'm like, okay, no, maybe Elune actually was like, no, okay, this terrible tragedy's happened, I'll reroute the souls. But it's like, what is the goddamn mechanics of rerouting these souls? And that is important because they literally, this whole thing has been kicked off by the machinery of death breaking, right? Yeah. But then why did they do all that stuff about the Night Elf characters who joined Sylvanas being like, oh no, Elune has abandoned us? Because in that case, Elune didn't abandon them. Elune, like, you know, tried to move, you know, shuffle their souls to the right place. But I guess, you know, the living ones could feel like Elune abandoned them, but it's like almost as if they would have expected Elune to have done something. And it's just all these messy ambiguities and different ways of reading it, none of which are interesting.
And it's so easy to get around it too. It's so easy. All you have to do is get a couple of Night Elf characters that are not literally, but act in story as ambassadors for their people. Where, you know, you're sitting down, you're walking past, you speak to one of the, like, you know, I don't know, maybe when you're walking through Stormwind, I suppose that doesn't work because you're flying through Stormwind. Okay, put a Night Elf refugee beside a Worgen refugee, because now it's just, you know, the whole Stormwind just holds everybody now. I'm sure I'd love to know how that's working for their economics and their the policy there, but anyway. Fucking hell. You're going to the Shadowlands. You know, maybe it's even before that. Maybe it's in like some 8.3 stuff. But you're going through to the Shadowlands, and there's just a NPC that you're almost guaranteed to walk past, and they have some pop-up dialogue being like, you know, maybe speaking to another Night Elf. Why do you think Elune abandoned us, sister? And that sister goes, you know, explains something about how they feel, which is, in such time of tragedy, our goddess would have intervened and saved us. How did Elune, our almighty goddess, let the world tree burn, not the world tree, but, you know, let the great tree burn down? And that would just cement in people's heads. It's, oh, okay, so we're talking about the burning of the tree. We're talking about the death. How could such an atrocity be let happen? Because the rerouting of the souls wasn't an atrocity to those people. Them dying was the atrocity. Losing their family and loved ones was the atrocity. So it's so simple how you can explain all of your meaning that way. But they sort of didn't.
Yeah.
So everyone's just like, what do you mean? What does any of your story mean, please? Can we have some explanation for anything?
Yeah, this is all the vagaries, and like I can see how you make sense of it all, you know, where there's all that stuff going on, and, you know, maybe Elune's stuff was just really trying to ensure that via the Arbiter they go into the right place. And, you know, the whole vengeance thing is that, you know, when Elune revoked power from Tyrande for, you know, the vengeance in Sylvanas, that's at a point in time where Elune didn't know the Night Elf souls had went to the Maw. Therefore, Elune was like, hang on now, steady on there. Bit too much there, Tyrande. And, you know, then that's why, you know, now it is the choice between, you know, renewal and vengeance.
Well, okay.
That's like one read of it, right? Yeah. But it doesn't feel that satisfying because it's all just like, woo, cosmic.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing that doesn't make any fucking sense then. Because Tyrande knows the souls are in the Maw. She's directly connected to Elune. She evokes Elune. How can Elune call herself anything close to a goddess? Or actually be that, or hold that power, or hold that position at all?
Upstart goddess. So whatever that true deity thing is, I think we just need to not think about that anymore, because clearly Elune is very fallible and just like another Eternal.
That aside, I shouldn't have used that, sorry. But that aside,
you should have, because it was like said.
Yeah, but that aside, the goddess part aside, she can clearly, you know, communicate directly to Tyrande. How the fuck she not know about the Maw? Because that's one of the first things, and that's where Tyrande draws on even more power from Elune. That's when the power is getting worse, when she's chasing Sylvanas for vengeance from the Maw. How would she never in all of her communication to Elune, not just be, running through Torghast screaming, come back here, Sylvanas, I'm going to kill you. Elune, look what happened to your people. We have to kill her. How was that not part of that conversation? Because that's stuff that you would assume is obvious.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing where if two characters are in communication and the topic is current, you assume as a viewer, as a reader, that, they're talking about that. It doesn't have to be explicit, but you assume they're in communication. So Elune be like, whoops, didn't know any of that. It's like, so is Tyrande stupid? Is she running around with her mouth closed? Is Elune stupid? Is she not asking Tyrande what's going on? Is she not speaking through? Because Elune does speak to Tyrande sometimes. Like, it's that stuff where all the characters are acting fucking stupid.
The answer to this is basically don't think about those details. Think about the broad strokes and the intent of the people writing the story. I'm not saying that thinking that is the way we should look at stories. I like the Game of Thrones books. What's fun, or A Song of Ice and Fire, what's fun there is everything is very meticulous and you can do a lot of thinking and reading into things, but also the character. But that's just not how I was written.
Yeah.
It is potentially full of holes, they're kind of just on a little tightrope being like, oh, this character, this, but it can all fall over so quickly with, just a little bit of you applying logic where it's like, okay, I guess is the rule that this is just a one-way thing, but then how can Elune just go, zoop into Tyrande and, can Elune not see through to Tyrande's eyes? It sort of seems like that does happen in this cinematic, but not in previous times.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so tired.
Well, that's the thing. It's not that I'm like looking at details where I shouldn't, because these details have been expressed before. In the War of the Ancients, I know the mechanic of how some of their interactions work. Elune will directly respond to what Tyrande is asking, very specifically sometimes, because she's the one who speaks to Elune for them. She is, the High Priestess. That's how she works. So I know that. And it seems that Blizzard, whoever was writing for that, either don't know that or don't care that I know. But the thing is, I don't mind looking past holes in storytelling. I despise when something relies on a hole to exist. Like, I am more than happy to suspend my disbelief. But whenever they go, Elune didn't know about this, and that's why she's sad, I'm just like, how is she learning that now? Like, any explanation for that would be nice. Very, very pleased. Very thank you.
Yeah, man, it's where, like, sorry everyone, by the way, if I'm just not seeming like super fired up. It's like, I find it weird talking about this stuff when everything else is going on, but also I'm just so tired of the lore being like this. I'm so tired.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like whenever it was just way more straightforward, but with like a few little hints of things, I was like, okay, cool. But it's like, man, we're in the afterlife. Nothing means anything. All the rules are fast and loose, and it's just, I can't wait for 10.0 and the lore to be in a different setting. To be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, we could very briefly talk about something that's not lore that's interesting. That I
what's
just
happened?
saw on Twitter. So, the rune words, the big set bonuses.
Yeah.
Hotfix that was not communicated reduces their effects by 50%.
Cool.
I love my investment. I'm very happy to have my Chaos Bane be significantly weaker this week for no reason.
I sleep now. Goodbye. I mean, I'm sure some people would have liked to have known that, so that they're maybe make a different Great Vault choice last week, or